Welcome, everybody, to the Retail Corner podcast. Today, we are here with Brian Thompson, Vice President of Human Resources at Senox. Brian has been in the retail industry for over 21 years. He's been Director of Loss Prevention, companies of the likes of JCPenney, Hastings, and TJX companies. Brian, it is a pleasure to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Carlos. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us. So, to start the conversation, I really want to talk about. I mean, I know obviously loss prevention and human resources always go hand in hand, working together. But what made your transition happen from loss prevention so many years and then going into human resources?
Well, I was lucky enough to have a really good progressive career with TJX companies and JCPenney's as a district loss prevention manager. Got my first director's opportunity at Agassi, where you and I got to work together. And really, I think it was there that I discovered how much I enjoyed interacting with people, and the human resources switch was kind of natural at that point.
Nice, 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 nice. And so with that, within human resources, right? I think a hot topic that's happening today is the challenge of hiring employees, good talent, and most importantly, retaining that talent. Because after the pandemic happened, everybody got into their comfort zone of the remote ability, right? And being able to wear shorts and wear a suit on top, right? And do that half and half while you were working. People felt a lot more productive. People got a chance to really enjoy their families and be more at home and really be more face to face with their kids, with their wives, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, now a lot of companies are deciding to come back, right, to what it used to be and come back to the office. And of course, really leverage all those expenses they have in infrastructure, right, with the buildings, with rents, et cetera. So where do you see companies that want to transition now from giving that remote opportunity and bringing the employees back? Do you foresee a lot of challenges, and how are they going to face those?
No, I think there's naturally going to be a lot of challenges just because it's human nature just to get used to what you got used to. So when we went out for so long during the pandemic, we all had an opportunity to kind of change how we did things. We changed what time we got up and what our morning routine was. So you have some of the basic problems like that. But I think the biggest challenge is that a lot of companies' cultures are built around the in-person team environment that they have. And so I think the challenge is going to be getting everybody to break themselves of the habits they developed during the pandemic. But the biggest opportunity they've got there is to kind of redevelop and reinvigorate their culture and that team spirit as they bring people back in. And I think if they do that correctly, they're going to see people are going to come back in stronger, and they're also going to attract new talent that's looking for that type of environment amongst a remote and hybrid world.
And do you foresee a lot of companies staying with a hybrid model, like depending on positions, allowing employees to have hybrid for certain positions versus others?
I think what's going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years is you're going to see companies kind of take two paths. You're going to see the ones that focus entirely on what the employees are asking for, and they're going to cater to those needs. And so you're going to see a lot of hybrid environments, and they're going to do the right thing. They're going to research the positions that work the best, and they're not going to let someone who has a hands-on position try to work remote, because it just doesn't happen. But at the same time, they're probably going to make more employee and individual based decisions. There's going to be other companies that are going to say we need to do what's right for the team and for the business, and they're going to say this is hard in the beginning, or this may cause people to make decisions where they don't want to stay with us anymore. But I think the ones that are going to win in the end at this are the ones that sat there and took the team focus and took the time to focus on the survival of the business. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything wrong with a remote or hybrid environment, but I think it's got to be dictated by the needs of the business, not necessarily the just what the employee
The
wants.
desire of the employee. Yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think another challenge that's also taking place, it's obviously what we're all facing, right? Inflation. I mean, and probably what is it? The biggest recession in the past 40 years plus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I always laugh. It depends on what you call a recession. I think they define it as two consecutive quarters with negative GDP, and I don't
mhm.
know. I think if you call a recession the bad thing that happens after inflation, we're probably already there. So,
Yeah, exactly. But with that, do you think more employees are going to be searching for a higher pay rate in order to keep up their lifestyle, right? Obviously, because I mean, you have products that have gone up 18, 30% up in price increases, or are they going to look more for that comfort? of the hybrid or the remote or other things that the business might be able to provide for them?
I think there's this weird thing going on with this kind of great resignation we all talk about. I think you're right. I think everybody is going to look at their lifestyle and say, I want it to get better. And even if I have to pause it getting better, it needs to not get worse. And you're looking at what average wages are going up around 5%, inflation's over 8. So just simple math says it's not getting better. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to have employees that are going to look for higher wages. But I also think what the Great Resignation is telling us is you're getting a really smart group of candidates right now, that they're not only looking for a better quality of life, they're looking for a better company. Because if they're leaving and they're leaving over money, and the only thing that mattered to them was money, it means there was no other value in that company. There was no other purpose in that job. And so they're actually going to go out and look for a job that, yeah, it has the salary they need to make their lifestyle work for them. But they're also going to look for a company with purpose, with mission, vision, everything that equals longevity and survival. Because I think what the group of us that went through 2008, we didn't want to do that again. And those of us that did, we tend to survive this one a lot better. So I think this generation's learning that lesson, and I think it's going to make everybody stronger. But yeah, inflation's got a direct relationship with employees looking for higher wages. But I think there's a whole new element this time with people also looking for meaningful work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And how do you think, like, for example, all the young professionals that are coming into market, right? I see like this nomad trend happening, right? And it's like you're really successful and independent if you can travel and do your job and all that. Do you foresee that as a challenge of bringing new talent into the pool, or do you think that's just going to be a fashion statement that kind of goes away, as people really see their needs?
No, I think it kind of goes back to the same thing when you were asking about coming back from remote and hybrid work to in person. I think that a lot of people have gotten used to this idea that I should or I shouldn't have to do this when I go into this job. And companies have said, well, I should or shouldn't have to, tell an employee that this is a basic expectation. I think this, like everything else, every couple of years, every generation or so, companies and employees kind of have to hit the reset button and come back to the middle. What's happened during the pandemic is both sides have gone to each corner, their respective corners, more or less. And so there's going to be this meeting in the middle again, and it's going to be something brand new. It's going to be something we've never seen before. The compromise that works out. So I don't think there's anything that's on or off the table right now. In terms of will it last, I think it's going to be, does it work equitably for the employee and for the company?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, Brian, last question I wanted to ask you, and I always ask this of all the guests, right? If you had one piece of advice to recommend to everybody, obviously in your field, in the human resources field, when it comes to facing all the challenges that are happening today that are so out of scope from what we're used to, what would be that one piece of advice that you would like to leave for them?
You're living in a world where the rules keep changing. Your principles have to remain the same. So if you have a company that you work for that lacks core values, that lacks principles, that lacks a mission statement, you really need to question why you're there, because you need to have purpose in your work, and the people you hire need to be looking for purpose in their work. And if you're not doing that, you're just collecting a paycheck, which is fine. And I mean, everybody needs one, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're an HR professional and you're looking for talent that you can bring in, that is looking for a career, that wants to be developed, that's humble, hungry, smart, everything an ideal team player is, you need to be with an organization that has all of those things, that their principles remain the same, that they know how to pivot and adapt in the world. And if you don't have that, you need to ask why.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Brian, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. It was amazing talking to you and getting your feedback. And we look forward to having you again, to see how maybe towards the end of the year, see what happened, right? What was kind of the industry changes and the industry standards now?
Would love to come back, and it was great seeing you again too, Carlos.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
If you would like to be featured on our podcast, please email us at podcast@retailcorner.live or visit our website, retailcorner.live. Looking forward to having you as our guest on our podcast, and thank you so much for listening.